Tonight on CHN Now, Lucha Libre in the Bay Area, In the Know with scientist Sarah Ernie, and from the San Francisco International Hip Hop Dance Fest, Micaiah and Fazo. All of that and more here on CHN Now. Hello and welcome to CHN Now, Northern California's home for unique and unconventional stories that matter. I'm your host, Aubrey Aquino. Let's take a look at the news. We begin with news about the national opioid epidemic and a possible solution. One doctor at Presbyterian St. Luke's Hospital in Colorado says neurostimulation surgery can help some people dealing with chronic pain to avoid having to take pills. Eddie Randall reports.
I didn't have much of a life. I was bedridden and housebound.
That's how Megan Gordon describes her life 10 years ago.
Severe chronic pelvic pain. Severe, so debilitating.
She says her pill intake was out of this world.
I should be dead. I was taking so many drugs, Valium mixed with fentanyl, morphine, Dilaudid, you name it, I was on it.
Even all of that wasn't helping her situation.
I would still be talking about I'm in pain.
She says just when she thought there was no hope, she met Dr. Giancarlo Barla.
So these are the components of what we call a spinal cord stimulation device.
He's been performing neurostimulation surgery for 30 years and believes this can help the opioid problem.
You pop the pill and it goes everywhere and it goes to all different organs. This procedure is more specific for the type of pain that the person has.
So instead of taking a pill every 4 to 6 hours, you're just hitting a button.
I have a setting for work, a setting for church, a setting for working out, a setting for sleep.
Even though she has to take the remote everywhere, she doesn't think of it as a burden.
It's small potatoes compared to the way I lived around my pain before. Everything I did was controlled around my pain.
Now she's in control.
I went from that to being, living in shame, false shame, that shame I should never had to feel, to having an incredibly robust life.
In other health-related news, how is your sense of smell? The findings of a study on people who have lost the ability to smell might shock you. Brittany Glazer reports there's a strong link between sense of smell and death.
Does this odor smell mostly like turpentine?
This isn't a scent game inside Dr. Samuel Spray's Memorial Medical Group Allergy Clinic.
Smoke. Smoke.
This is a pocket smell test, one of the tools used to detect the strength or deterioration of a person's sense of smell. Dr. Spray says it's normal to have some reduction in smell function, but a study published in the Public Library of Science shows a 5-year mortality for older adults who totally lose their sense of smell.
It's about to happen and you're about to have a meltdown over the next 5 years. Chances are you're not going to be around.
The data shows 50% of those who lose their sense of smell will be dead in 5 years. Dr. Spray says the olfactory system depends on stem cell turnover, and when it loses function, it could be a warning sign for degenerative diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, even certain viral illnesses. It can be difficult for a person to recognize he or she can't smell as well as before.
Mostly it's family members who tell them that, can't you smell this? Do you smell smoke? Did you know, for instance, that you had a smoke in the kitchen? Dr.
Spray says if you think you are losing your sense of smell or have a family member who is, it needs to be checked out. It could be an obstruction that can be repaired, a short-term illness, or it might be something bigger that requires an MRI.
If something is going on in the brain that's obvious, or we may need to send them to a neurologist so that they can be determined whether or not they have any problems with some metabolic diseases that can cause the problem.
A good sense of smell can also keep you safe at home. Dr. Spray says a smoke detector can also help, and man's best friend could even play a role for the human nose.
Californians are known for their generosity and willingness to help other people. For a San Jose Earthquakes player and a Las Vegas taxi driver, it was that kindness that brought them together. Garvin Thomas explains.
Regardless how it may seem in movies and on TV, not all Las Vegas dreams come true at night. Some jackpots are hit in the middle of the day. And one recently happened right in Pedro Jajamian's cab.
Oh, it was a gift from God.
Pedro has been driving a taxi in Vegas for 18 years. But changes in the industry have made it harder and harder lately to make ends meet. It's why when Pedro picked up a passenger at the Cosmopolitan 2 weeks ago, he was about 2 months behind on his mortgage. A fact he'd not normally share with a fare, but this one was different.
Seems very friendly, and so I thought I can tell him all my problems.
I'm a firm believer of what you project out in the world is what you'll receive back tenfold, right?
First of all, his passenger, Quincy Amarikwa, plays for the San Jose Earthquake.
Quincy Amarikwa rides the challenge.
If there's a way that you can help someone, you need to find a way to do that. And I let him know. I said, I would like to help you get caught up on your mortgage.
And so Quincy cut him a personal check right on the spot.
I don't lose my house, still in my house, thanks to him. I'm very appreciate his generosity.
On that ride to the airport, something dawned on Quincy, he says. Why wait for one day to do what you can do on this day?
And now for the latest in tech news. Millions of Americans are sporting fitness trackers these days. These devices track your activity, but they also collect data on your sleep. Dr. Frank McGeorge spoke with a sleep expert to learn the best ways to use this information to get a better night's sleep.
I sleep 8 to 9 hours at night, and it's a priority for me.
Dr. Kathy Goldstein is passionate about sleep. She's a neurologist at the University of Michigan's Sleep Disorder Center.
Most people need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But the reality is you're not as productive of a person, you're not as happy as a person, and you're not as healthy as a person without sufficient sleep.
She cautions most activity trackers tend to overestimate our sleep time.
The way these devices work is they determine wake versus sleep by when you're either moving, so supposed wake, or when you're asleep, so less movement. As you can imagine, the problem is if you're laying there completely still but awake, as happens through part of the night.
But Goldstein says anything that makes you more aware of how much sleep you're getting can be helpful.
If you're regularly clocking less than 7 hours of sleep, there's a problem and you need to start devoting more time to sleep. They literally are giving you a wake-up call.
Ultimately, Goldstein says it's not data, but dedication that will improve your sleep the most.
Spend 8 hours in bed at minimum devoted to attempting sleep. Avoid bright light, particularly that from electronics, after sundown, before bedtime. And wake up at the same time every day, even on the weekends, to stabilize that internal clock. That works better than any pillow, any mattress, any app, or any wearable on the market in improving your sleep.
That's the news. Stay with us. We'll be back with the rise of Lucha Libre in the Bay Area in tonight's Upside Report. Welcome back to CHN Now. Lucha Libre has exploded in popularity here in the Bay Area. You'll find that it's the type of fun that draws fans from all walks of life, including the whole family. Let's go to the U.S. Karate and Boxing Gym in Hayward, where Lucha Libre comes to life.
Lucha Libre is the Mexican counterpart to American pro wrestling.
It's very acrobatic. I mean, you're doing more flips, you're doing a lot of flashy stuff, twists and dive outs outside the ring.
Prior to 2003, there wasn't a Lucha Libre scene in the Bay Area. I started finding these guys that used to wrestle in Mexico. We started doing Lucha Libre shows based out of, San Jose, Oakland, San Francisco. And ever since then, it just started to flourish. Not only our group, but then other groups started, forming. Now there's a Lucha Libre show every weekend.
I was exposed to Lucha Libre many years ago. I'd probably say 1993 on Galavisión, which was a free channel in San Jose, Channel 22. I saw AAA wrestling for the first time, and I was like overwhelmed by the athleticism, and just the outfits and the characters that they had was what really drew my attention to Lucha Libre.
Growing up, I never liked any other sport. That's all I liked to watch was Lucha Libre. That's like the only thing that really kept me in line in terms of not going towards a bad path.
I've been a wrestling fan since I've been 4. Started training like about 5 years ago, but I'd say I was on a mat since I was like 11 or 12. Just doing amateur wrestling training until I could become a pro wrestler.
Your mask is who you are. It's your identity. A wrestler will lose his mask if he's challenged by another wrestler. Say they have a long-standing rivalry and they bet their mask. You know, if I beat you in a match, I'm gonna get your mask and you have to take it off and you can't ever wear it again. And so once you lose your mask, you lose your, your character. But then again, there are wrestlers who are more popular without a mask because they're charismatic and, they're very good at what they do. In Lucha Libre, you have the técnicos and the rudos. You have the good and the evil.
Well, a técnico is usually someone that the audience is going to cheer for. They're the guy that do the most shiny, flashy moves.
The rudos are the bad guys. They will do anything they can to win. They will cheat, they will give you a low blow, they will hit you with the chair, they will bite you, they will scratch you when the ref is not looking.
Anything needs a yin and yang. You need good versus evil.
What I love about being a ruda is that I get to go out there and do exactly what I want, when I want, to who I want, and I don't have to worry about pleasing anyone or getting anyone's approval. I'm out there for myself.
We are técnicos because out of a sense of morality. As técnicos, we inspire kids to do good in the world, to not go down a bad path, give them a positive example, They look up to técnicos as that figure that could lead them down the right path,
Yeah, we weren't the most popular kids in high school and all that, We probably got bullied every now and then. We have to set the example of, if you follow the rules, you work hard, you can still win, have your hand raised at the end of the match.
The reaction you get from a lucha crowd versus an American-style wrestling card are night and day. I love working lucha. Not only the style of wrestling, but the fans themselves are very passionate, and they add so much to the show themselves by, cheering for the good and booing the bad.
I want silence or we're leaving!
Having fans make noise, whether they boo me or they cheer me, I feed off of that. I really want them to suspend their belief when they're here with me and I want to take them on a ride. And when I get that reaction from them, it makes it all worth it. That drives me. You want to be a rock star, you go learn how to play guitar. It's easy to find a place to go learn guitar, but how do you become a wrestler? It took me a long time to figure out how many schools and options there are here, and I was lucky enough to find one of the best with Jason Styles and California Lucha Libre with Jesus, so I feel like I got lucky with good trainers, good promotions, good school, good company.
In order to become a wrestler, you do have to train. You have to train hard.
We come in, we train in the ring, but there's so much more outside of that. You can't just come into the ring a couple of times a week and expect to be in shape and keep up when you're having matches. You've got to put in the effort outside of the ring.
It's very cardiovascularly intense.
When it comes to the school here at Arena Hayward, we have a very good school head trainer for the American wrestling. Jason Styles does an excellent job. And then for Lucha, we have El Maestro Sky there, who reminds me of my days when I was starting to train in Mexico. It feels exactly the same way. It feels like a genuine Mexican class, authentic.
The future, I hope it's bright, because it's such a wonderful thing for the family to come out and enjoy, and it really is, our shows here are geared towards families. My hopes is that it continues to grow and grow and grow, so everyone can have the enjoyment of watching and seeing Lucha Libre.
More daring, physical, and theatrical than American wrestling, Lucha Libre is in a league of its own. Coming up next is In the Know with data scientist Sarah Ernie, and later our up-close interview with Micaiah and Faizo from the San Francisco International Hip Hop Dance Fest. Welcome back to CHN Now. Next up is Science and Tech in this week's In the Know with data scientist Sarah Ernie. This week, Sarah gives us the rundown on autocorrect, how it works, and why it sometimes incorrectly corrects.
Hey, I'm Sarah Ernie, and I'm a data scientist. We're here at San Francisco's Pier 15 at the Exploratorium. Let's go learn some science. I'm here today to help make science more accessible to you, because after all, we're all scientists at heart, and we all have questions. Have you ever thought about what actually happens when you're typing on your phone? You actually are typing on a screen where the software understands what you're touching. And most of the time, it actually does a really good job of understanding what letters you want to hit. But sometimes, it's not quite correct. Let's say I want to type the word about. Great. Looks exactly like what I wanted it to, what I expected. It even capitalized it for me. Awesome. But a lot of the time, I don't actually do a really great job typing it out. Spout is not a dictionary word. But what happened that was really great is that it substituted it for about on my behalf, because it's matching it to a word in the dictionary that is closest to the one that I typed. Actually, the word shout has just as many letter substitutions, and when you think about it, it probably would have been the one that came to mind first if you saw this written on a piece of paper. The reality is that about is actually closer to spout than shout is when we look at distance on your keyboard. That's because the letter A and S are more often clumsily substituted by your thumbs than the letters B and H if we look at where it is on this keyboard. B and N are right next to each other. So why didn't the word snout come up? Snout's a real word, a pig snout. Well, part of that actually has to do with what goes into creating autocorrect. So the word snout actually doesn't come up that often. And the way this works is that in addition to creating distance substitutions for all of the letters, most autocorrect actually also uses a corpus or a collection of documents that it derives this type of information from. So for example, it uses all of the articles in the New York Times or some other publications and use those as how likely it would be for the word snout to start off at the beginning of a sentence. In artificial intelligence, what we're trying to do is move toward a place where we all have personalized or customized autocorrect. But if we think about what's actually required to do that, the companies that are creating autocorrect would have to hold on to all of your data and all of the text that you're sending to base their probabilities of how often that word is seen based on what you have written in the past. So it comes at a trade-off between privacy and the ability to have artificial intelligence really learn about you. We actually have a lot of examples of companies that refuse to give up data about individuals, even in cases of terrorism, where companies refuse to unlock the phones of people that were suspected of shooting others. And the reason why is that those companies don't want to be the judge in deciding what data should be accessible. What happens if the request for something being okay suddenly has to do with your voting record or something else that you might have set? That's why it's important to always ask how your data is being used and why it's being stored. That's today's Science and Tech. I'm Sarah Ernie, reminding you that science is all about discovery. So go out and discover.
Thank you, Sarah, for shedding some light on the imperfectness of autocorrect. We'll be back with our up-close interview with Micaiah and Faizo from the San Francisco International Hip Hop Dance Fest after the break. Welcome back to CHN Now. San Francisco's music and dance culture reaches the world over, and joining us for our up-close interview to give us some insight into that culture, our artistic director of the San Francisco International Hip Hop Dance Fest and the director of Media Circus, Micaiah and Faizo. Hi, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Aubrey. So Micaiah, let's start with you. Talk a little bit about your event and how it got started.
1999, I was a dance teacher in the Bay Area, choreographer, and doing small shows in the Mission District, where I had dance companies, mostly hip hop, come by, do their thing. And I just decided that I wanted a small evolution of this particular show, because at the time there was no such thing as hip hop dance companies being seen at theaters. And it was local, it was just, you know, who was in the Bay Area, and that's how it started.
And so now, nearly 2 decades later, you're continuing to produce this event. What has it turned into now?
Now I have an international event. I have about 120 dance companies every year that apply to perform in the festival. And we're talking, the applications come from all over Russia, Africa, Philippines, South America, Europe, everywhere. And this year I accepted 17 companies. So it's not easy to get in, it's very particular.
And Faizo, you've been there since the first year that this happened. And
Yes.
you yourself are a Bay Area dance legend. So talk about being part of this and your love for dance.
You know, ever since I was a little kid, you know, I started dancing in my church. A group of kids, we were supposed to put this performance together and go on stage. Well, we went on stage, we was getting ready to go on. I walk out, I look around, nobody came out. They started the music, and I had to start dancing by myself. I was just a little kid. So I just focused in my zone. I was just in my zone right there. And I just started dancing, and when I stopped and looked up, I had a standing ovation. And that was over 40-something years ago.
So having a platform like the Hip Hop
This was wonderful, but here's the thing, I didn't even know about it. Like, you know, I didn't know about it. Somebody had told me about the festival the day of the festival. And I was like, a hip hop dance festival? So I went, she could tell the story better than I could, but I went down there and I took this VHS tape down there with me, right? And I asked, is someone named Micaiah here? And it was her. She said, I'm Micaiah. And I told her my name was Faizo. I'm with this group called Media Circus. And she had never heard of us. I said, well, take a look at this. We should be a part of this dance festival. So she looked at it and she put us on that night.
And you talk about it being worldwide. I mean, in that span, hip hop has also become part of the mainstream. We have shows dedicated to dance where hip hop dance and those type of movements are taking center stage. What does it mean for you to be able to see that and have a place where you can showcase something that you've loved for so long?
The thing is that the festival has always had a following even before all of that happened. And people outside of our country have been doing their thing in hip hop as well. Maybe I didn't even know about it perhaps because the web, the internet was not so great back then. So, you know, until I was able to start getting all the submissions the way that I get them now. Now, this year, I have a dance company from Barcelona, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, Mexico City, all performing on stage at the festival this year. But, I mean, you know, what do you have to say about how mainstream?
I think now, you know, when we first started dancing, you know, from then till now, it's a beautiful thing that hip hop, this dance culture have come this far. And for me, just to have a platform like this to showcase our talent and just the Bay Area talent and talent abroad, it's a beautiful thing, you know. I just appreciate the fact that she has this platform for dancers, you know, so yeah.
All right, well, we will definitely be looking forward to your event. Faizo, thank you for being here. Micaiah, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
That's going to do it for this edition of CHN Now. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful week.